Greetings from my tub. I'm in here getting 5% cash back when I pay in full with PayPal. No fees, no interest. Make the most of your money this holiday with PayPal. Save the offer in the app.
Ends 12/31. See paypal.com/promo terms. Points can be redeemed for cash and more. Pay in for subject to terms and approval. PayPal Inc. NMLS 910457.
Tires matter. They're the only part of your vehicle that touches the road. Tread confidently with new tires from Tire Rack. Whether you're looking for expert recommendations or know exactly what you want, Tire Rack makes it easy. Fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection, convenient installation options, and the best selection of hand-cooked tires. Go to TireRack.com to see their hand-cooked test results, tire ratings, and reviews, and be sure to check out all the special offers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
This episode is brought to you by Vortex Optics and Ignite Marketing Group. Check the links in the show notes. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast, The Hunter's Brief, your go-to roundup for the week's most compelling stories from the world of hunting, wildlife, conservation, and public lands. It's the week of October 24th through the 31st. Apologize for being a day late here, but we've got a jam-packed show for you. Whether you're a seasoned hunter, just starting out, conservation-minded, or simply just love the outdoors, there's something here this week for everyone. So sit back and let's dive in. The Senate Stewardship Caucus launches to safeguard public lands. A bipartisan group of U.S. senators led by Democrat Martin Heinrich of New Mexico and Republican Tim Sheehy of Montana has launched the Senate Stewardship Caucus. The caucus's mission is to work across party lines to protect public lands and waters and strengthen local economies that depend on our outdoor recreation. It includes lawmakers from both parties who see healthy ecosystems as drivers of economic growth and recreation. The caucus also promises to back legislation that expands access to outdoor spaces while upholding multiple use principles. For hunters and anglers, this could mean more consistent funding for habitat restoration and increased access to lands that support deer, elk, waterfowl, and other huntable species. Conservationists hope the caucus will counter efforts to privatize or develop public lands and ensure future generations inherit healthy wildlife populations. The idea of senators bonding over birds and bucks might seem surprising, but in this caucus, bipartisanship really is a contact sport. In Oklahoma, the Attorney General defends tribal hunting rights. In Oklahoma, Attorney General Gentry Drummond has announced that his office will not prosecute Native American hunters for harvesting game on tribal lands without state permits. After conflicts between tribal hunters and state wildlife officers, Drummond said he would personally take over any cases and seek their dismissal, recognizing the state's treaties and sovereignty. He emphasized that tribal hunting rights predate Oklahoma's statehood and should be respected. The move comes from the tribes assert greater authority over natural resources, including wildlife and fisheries. For hunters, the policy clarifies a gray area and reduces the fear of legal troubles when hunting on sovereign tribal territories. It also shows how politics can either strengthen or undermine relationships between tribes and the states. As one observer quipped, sometimes the best way to avoid a standoff is to holster the citation and shake hands. Elk hunter succumbs to grizzly attack injuries in British Columbia. A 63-year-old elk hunter who was mauled by a grizzly bear near Fort Steele, British Columbia on October 2nd has died from his injuries. The hunter was reportedly calling elk when a sow and cubs approached. He fired a single shot in self-defense before being severely injured and airlifted to hospital. The British Columbia Conservation Officer Service confirmed his death nearly 3 weeks later, sparking renewed debate about hunting safety in grizzly territory. The attack occurred just north of the U.S. border and underscores how quickly a routine hunt can turn deadly. Many hunters carry pepper spray or firearms, but sow grizzlies with cubs are notoriously defensive. The tragedy is a sobering reminder to make noise, stay vigilant, and know your surroundings when calling game in bear country. Sadly, it also proves that no matter how prepared you are, sometimes you're only the second toughest mammal in the woods. Running an outdoor business is a grind. One day you're glassing ridgelines or running dogs, the next you're tuning gear or working to keep the land wild. And somewhere in between, you're expected to fill calendars, move product, and keep your name alive. That's where the Ignite Marketing Group comes in. They work with outfitters, gear brands, and conservation groups to tell your story the way it deserves to be told, and to put it in front of the people who live for this lifestyle. Imagine a website that doesn't just sit there but actually books hunts. Imagine campaigns that don't feel like ads but like a buddy passing along a tip. Imagine your story reaching more hunters, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts who get it and who want it. That's what Ignite does. No gimmicks, no flash, just real growth for people who belong in the outdoors. Don't just market, ignite it. Learn more at ignitemarketinggp.com/outdoors. Hey hunters, have you ever had one of those stories, the ones that you didn't want to tell, the ones that end in failure? Yeah, I've been there. Actually, you know what? The culprit for me usually is bad optics, or worse, lack of using my optics at all. Picture this. I spot a trophy buck, or an antelope, or an elk, whatever it may be. My heart is racing, but the blurry view, or I just can't quite identify exactly what I'm looking at, it has me second guessing. Well, that's where Vortex Optics comes in. With crystal clear glass and rugged durability, Vortex gives you the confidence to take the shot. Don't let poor optics ruin your story. Make every moment count. Upgrade to Vortex and turn your hunting tales into triumphs. Visit vortexoptics.com today. California euthanizes 4 gray wolves after livestock depredations. California wildlife officials have taken the rare step of euthanizing 4 gray wolves from the Bayam Sao pack, following what they called an unprecedented surge in livestock attacks. Between late March and early September, the pack was responsible for at least 70 livestock losses, nearly 2/3 of the state's confirmed depredations. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife says it tried non-lethal measures like flattery, hazing, and flagging, but the wolves continue preying on cattle. Director Charlton Bonham said the decision was not taken lightly and came after months of monitoring and outreach. California now has 10 known wolf packs, and ranchers worry that predator numbers are growing faster than conflict mitigation tools. Hunters and conservationists alike feel the tension between recovering apex predators and protecting rural livelihoods. Maybe next time, the wolves should consider joining a vegan CSA. Fall time change increases wildlife vehicle collisions, and campaign urges wildlife crossings. The end of daylight savings time may give you an extra hour of sleep, but it also increases the risk of hitting wildlife on the road. Environment Colorado notes that vehicle collisions with deer rise by about 16% in the week after the fall time change because rush hour overlaps with dusk when animals are active. The group launched a campaign urging drivers to slow down and watch for wildlife, especially on mountain highways. They also call for building more wildlife overpasses and underpasses, which can reduce collisions by up to 90%. Colorado already has more than 100 such structures and plans to add more with the help of transportation agencies. For hunters, fewer animal vehicle collisions mean healthier herds and fewer carcasses wasted on the roadside. Supporters hope the issue will unite motorists and conservationists around common sense solutions. After all, nobody wants to spend their extra hour of sleep waiting for a tow truck because a buck decided to tango with their bumper. Trump administration tells Colorado to stop importing Canadian wolves. Colorado's fledgling wolf reintroduction program hit a roadblock when the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service instructed the state to source wolves from the northern Rocky Mountain states and not Canada. The guidance, delivered in an October 10th letter and reported by the Associated Press, comes after Colorado released wolves from British Columbia earlier this year to meet voter-mandated reintroduction goals. Federal officials now say importing wolves from Canada violates the management framework for the northern Rocky population. Colorado has been releasing wolves west of the Continental Divide since 2023 and envisions a long-term population of 200 or more. Ranchers have opposed the program because some wolves have attacked livestock. Supporters argue that wolves restore ecological balance. Having to capture wolves from other U.S. states could slow the program and complicate partnerships. If nothing else, the letter shows that in the world of wildlife politics, borders matter even when wolves don't read maps. Government shutdown parks stay open despite staff furloughs. As the federal government shutdown drags on, national parks remain technically open, but many rangers and support staff have been sent home without pay. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum ordered parks to stay open and accessible despite deep staffing and budget cuts. Park superintendents warn that without rangers, facilities can quickly become unsafe, trash overflows, toilets close, vandalism rises, and emergency response times slow. Past shutdowns have shown that leaving parks unattended leads to resource damage that can take years to fix. Campers and hunters heading to public lands are asked to pack out their own trash, respect closures, and be prepared for limited services. Critics say that the policy prioritizes optics over safety, while proponents argue that Americans should still access their lands. If nothing else, it proves that politicians can shut down the government, but they can't shut down the squirrels.
This episode is brought to you by Buffalo Trace Distillery. Powerful yet smooth. Contained but never tame. Proudly going their own way, but never going alone. This is the spirit inside Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Made at Buffalo Trace Distillery, the world's most award-winning distillery. Buffalo Trace is always perfectly untamed. Distilled, aged, and bottled by Buffalo Trace Distillery, Franklin County, Kentucky. 90 proof, 45% alcohol by volume. Learn more at buffalotracedistillery.com. Please drink responsibly.
Environmentalists challenge the Lolo National Forest logging plan. In Montana, conservation groups are challenging the Wykes Cherry Project, a proposed logging operation covering nearly 76,000 acres of Lolo National Forest. The project would allow commercial logging over large areas that burned in the 1930s, claiming it would return them to natural conditions. Critics from the Center of Biological Diversity argue that the plan relies on outdated science and misrepresents the landscape's history. They warn that logging could threaten habitat for elk, Canada lynx, grizzly bears, bull trout, pileated woodpeckers, and of course, the Forest Service has invoked an emergency provision to expedite the 10-year project. But opponents say there is no emergency and that the agency failed to analyze climate impacts or alternatives. Hunters are concerned that large-scale logging could disrupt migration corridors and reduce cover for game species. When a salvage project needs this much salvaging, it might be time to put the chainsaws down and pick up the science book. Judge orders U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to reconsider wolf delisting. A federal judge in Missoula has ruled that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service violated the Endangered Species Act when it removed protections from western gray wolves. Judge Donald Malloy said the agency failed to use the best available science and must reassess threats to wolf populations before delisting them. The decision stems from lawsuits filed by conservation groups after the Trump administration removed federal protections. Gray wolves have recovered in some regions, but remain absent in large parts of their historic range. The ruling means that federal agencies must reevaluate population data and management plans before shifting responsibilities to the states. Hunters, ranchers, and wildlife advocates will all be watching to see if wolves remain under federal oversight or return to state management. The ruling proves once again that even top predators aren't above the law. Idaho Fish and Game seeks tips after elk and deer poaching cases. Idaho Fish and Game is asking the public to help solve 2 wildlife crimes near Osborne, Idaho. In one case, an elk was shot and left to waste off Knuckles Gulch Road. In another, a mule deer doe was illegally killed and partially butchered during a closed season. Wardens say the carcasses were discovered after the seasons ended, suggesting the animals were poached. Citizens with information are urged to call the Citizens Against Poaching hotline and may be eligible for a reward. Poaching robs all hunters of the opportunity to harvest animals ethically and undermines wildlife management. Hunters are often the first line of defense against illegal activities and are encouraged to report such behavior. Let's make sure the only thing getting bagged are tags, not wildlife criminals. That's a wrap with this week's The Hunting Stories, The Hunter's Brief. We hope the stories keep you informed and inspired, whether you're glassing for elk, campaigning for habitat, or teaching your youngsters how to draw a bow. To stay current on these issues, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with your hunting buddies and conservation-minded friends. Tune in Monday for our storytelling episode and send us your feedback. We love hearing from you. And as always, keep it ethical, respect the resource, and cherish our wild places. Thank you so much for listening.